Okay, I have only prepared this up here. And when I did it in my head a few days ago, this speech was perfect. It's not going to be as good today. But this is Sales Training of December. And I'm going a different route. I was trying to think of what to go over next, where to go with it. And I got kind of inspired, and I won't bore you with why. But here's what my training is going to be today. And I hope that I can keep the flow going well enough to do half the job that I think I can do up here on this. I am going to teach how to be a successful Little League coach. This is not about direct sales. It's not about anything else. I want to teach you how to be a Little League coach. I want you to be able to send this to a friend, relative, whatever, that is thinking of coaching their kid in football, baseball, whatever it is, and what they've watched here, they can be a good coach. I speak from experience. I was a very good coach. I will bring that up too much at times. It may even sound arrogant at times. I'm going to struggle not to be that way, but only to the level that I have to get a point across. Now I'm going to stop real quick to say this. The principles that go with being a good coach are the exact same principles that go with being a good salesperson. Being a good sales manager, being a good business manager, they all flow together. I had a very good friend, oh my lands, many years, his name's Tim Perdue, principal of a inner city school, very rough school, highly educated, working on his, did he have his, he either had his doctorate or was working on it when I first had this conversation with him. But he would get so frustrated, especially in dealing with coaches, but also parents and teachers, but especially coaches, and especially the coaches of Little League and all. And what would drive him insane, he was a very high-strung guy, was he'd say, Bob, they have no understanding of child psychology. They have no understanding of child psychology. And I'd think, hey, you kind of overstate it, but as you get into it, he couldn't be more right. He was absolutely right. Now I'm going to pause for a moment, and I'm going to jump around too much, and I apologize. If somebody wants to clean this up and edit it and make it better, please do. But I'm going to jump around a little, and I'm going to go over something. When you have a Little League team, you're going to have one team, and I'm going to misspell this, the athletes, has the studs. All right? Most likely, that team's going to win your championship. And if they're not going to win your championship, they're at least going to be challenging for it. I don't know why this happens. It almost always happens organically. Sometimes it's friend of a friend. This team comes out and other kids start jumping from teams to get onto them. But by the time, assuming your kid starts with the league somewhere around 5 or 6, by the time they're 8, there is one team that has talent at a bizarre level. We're talking USC, University of Oklahoma, Alabama, Notre Dame, this kind, Miami of the 80s and 90s at stages, that level of talent. They have got the best athlete at every position. Talent often wins. Barry Switzer always used to say, Coach gets way too much credit when we win, made too much blame when we lose. He'd sit there and talk with Jimmy Johnson and others. I remember them having a conversation once, and he said, Jimmy, when you had the better players, you won, and when I had the better players, I won. And Jimmy Johnson said, you're absolutely right. And it always holds. The athletes matter, okay? So you want to know how to be a winning coach? Go get the absolute best athletes, be semi-decent at what you do, and you're at least going to be competing. Now then, on a league that's probably got 20-plus teams, there's only one of these. In some rare neighborhoods where it's really an exceptional area, there may be 2. What I want to discuss today is how you win when you're in this pile. How you're at least the team playing them for the championship, or preferably beating them for the championship. That is what we're going to go over. Because here's the guy I admire. I admire the guy that can take the average kid, the my kid, the your kid, the below average kid, the ones that are all from a single family home, the ones that come from poverty, the ones that struggle for whatever reason, that aren't as good athletically. How do you make them winners? That's what's fun, And that's what's cool, and that's what's exciting. I'm going to give you an example of my own life. My son is 6 years old, and we have started in football. And we go on a team, and my wife's made me promise I'm not going to coach because I'm way too intense for her. We go on a team called the Storm, I believe, and they suck. They're just horrible. They got some really good athletes. There's 3 or 4 really good ones, and there's a couple kids that are that bizarre thing. They got like to their full height when they were 6. I mean, I think my son is about this tall, and these other kids, I'm not kidding you, he came to their shoulder. It was insane. But they don't know what they're doing. They're not doing anything. And we have a coach who's the head coach who had been in the backfield in his life and did a pretty decent job of it. But he doesn't understand how to motivate kids or anything else. Got another guy that had done receivers, and we got some fellow never seen anything about the line, nice fellow trying to do the line, all this. We go to our round robin, we lose every single game. I finally pulled the coach aside about 3 days before the round robin and said, you got to let me help. You got to at least let me coach the line because they were so bad. Technique doesn't matter. We'll get on that in a minute. He said, okay. That team never lost a game for the next 7 years. So they split up and went off to play ball in junior high. Lost every single round robin game, never lost another. Couple close ones, not much. Now, part of it was technique. Part of it is you got to have your skills. And some of you are thinking, well, you know, I want to help my son. I want to coach him in baseball. Hey, I want to help my daughter. I want to coach her in soccer. I want to coach her in basketball, whatever, but I didn't play it or I wasn't any good. Or I don't remember how to teach it or whatever. Here is a truth, a very, very, very important truth. Facts. Knowledge. Technique, whatever you want to call it, are easy to get. Go to your local bookstore or library. Here, I'll write out bookstore for those of you that don't remember. You can look over my shoulder and see it. Buy it. It's in a book. Guarantee it's in a book. You're doing basketball, go get Nafis. Go get Red Auerbachs. I don't care. Technique's there. X's and O's are there. Go on the internet. Google it. How to coach football. What's a winning offense? Again, I remember, and I see too much of him. I enjoy his interviews. I don't really like the guy, but I enjoy his interviews. But again, Barry Switzer one time, somebody's talking to him, spread offense, Big 12, how it works and everything. And he looked at him and said, they said, what do you think about if you had your wishbone? He said, the wishbone would absolutely still work today. If somebody wanted to coach it correctly and recruit the athletes to fit it, it would work today. It's just not what they're doing. It's just not what's in style. Absolutely true. My point is, run the wishbone, run the spread, run the forearm, run the all wing, run the power eye. Go with baseball tradition, money ball mentality. Go with how to handle your rotation, training hitter, different stance. I remember guys saying, oh, the perfect stance. You got to teach kids the perfect stance for baseball, how to bat. It's got to be exactly. And then I sit there with the same guys coaching these kids. And I agree with it. You got to teach them basic technique. But we're laughing about the fact we watch a pro baseball game. There ain't a single batter that had a good stance. Watch it. Go study. You remember your own head. Remember what your coaches taught you. Know what you would teach your kid about the right stance and elbow up and all that. Now go watch a professional baseball game and pick a single batter that has a correct stance. It won't happen. Doesn't mean you don't have to teach them some technique, and I don't want to get too lost down that rabbit hole. My point is, this is out there. This is research. Implementation is everything. Implementation is everything. How do you implement the knowledge? If you already have the knowledge, how do you pass it along? If you don't have the knowledge, how do you get it? Okay? I'm going to start with the absolute best I can. I'm going to leave some things out. I promise you I'll watch this a week later and wish I could go back and add some stuff. Who knows? Maybe I will. But for right now, I'm going to cover the most important parts. Number one, everything relates to the Bible, by the way, gentlemen. You better love them. You better love them. You better look at those kids when you decide you're going to coach them. And even the one you don't like, you better love them. You should see their heart, and it should just swell in here. When they succeed, when they win a game, it should be the greatest joy you ever felt in your life because you love them more than yourself. When they lose and they cry because they gave it all they had, you should be crying with them, and you will be. And if you hold strong and don't there, you will be that night. You gotta love them. If you don't love them more than you do yourself, you're in trouble. That is the ultimate core. You want to have the answer to child psychology? You want to have the answer to psychology? Again, guys, God made the answer so easy. Open the book and read it. Love. Ignore the rest. Love them. And you have a great year. You think I'm wrong? Yes, championships matter. Yes, championships go somewhere. Doing your best and getting there matters as well. But I promise you, you will have the best year ever if you can truly hold a team together with love. You've seen those teams. You've been part of them, I hope. If you haven't, I'm sad for you. I hope you get a chance. That is the ultimate fit. Start there. Number one. This one's a little bit harder, okay? If I misspelled that, tell me, Richard. Discipline. Here's the hardest thing in the world. Most people can get here, but understanding that this is an element of that loses them. I can go into the fact that as a child they had pain, it hurt, there was some sadist that did discipline, it wasn't done in love, so they view discipline as pain. Pain is not equated to love. If I love them, I don't. That's a crock. Something misused, something abused does not make it true as used in the evil. It is still true in the good. This has to flow with. Discipline has to be part of. A subcategory of discipline. Structure. Or if you prefer, system. Another is routine. You got to have discipline. You got to have structure. You need to have some focus, some standing. This is something where you're going to teach these kids and you're going to give them a value for life. They're going to hunt you down 30 years later and thank you. And they're not even 100% sure why they loved you so much and why you were so important. This one, even more than this one. And here's a scary note, guys. And I'm going to hate to admit this, but I want to be honest with you. A lot of these young men and women will never in their life, have never been, and will never be as loved as you will love them. If you're willing to open your heart, pour it all out. And by the way, it's going to hurt. You're going to take a kick here at times. And I can tell you a story on that one as well. There's a lot of jealousy that pumps up. A lot of people want to get in on a winner. It can get real, real weird. And I'm not going to go there right now. It's isn't about me. That's huge. This matters. Most people have no discipline. And I know, I look like I don't either. I can if I need to. That's right. It's the holidays. Most people lack discipline. People crave it. Children, my friends, children crave it. We think they don't because they also crave freedom. We also want to be creative. The Montessori world has a place. It should just be part of a lifestyle. It should not be a lifestyle. Just like eating should be part of your life. It should not be your life. Being creative, having some freedom, that matters. But discipline and structure matters the most. Be harsh. Be strong. Holy cow, I don't even know what number this should be, but I'm going to put it up because it just occurred to me. I'm going to have to come back to that with about 50 million categories. Be strong. You cannot have a kid defy you. You cannot have a kid not run. You cannot have a kid not do sit-ups. All right? Now remember some praise. Remember some flow. So let's go into this. You get a group of kids. The very first thing you're going to do is you're going to greet them. You're going to welcome them. You're going to be excited. Man, I'm so glad we're going to have a great year. This is going to be it. And you know what one of your very first things needs to be? See that pole over there? Give me a lap. Hook it. Make them run. I don't care what sport it is. Make them run. Yes, it matters. They got to be in shape. All that matters. That goes to the technique thing we talked about a minute ago. You need to break them free so you can sit there, watch them, and assess them. Get something going in your head. All right? Realize that every single team has somebody that is a superstar. Somebody that's a true diamond in the rough. Somebody that can carry everyone else on their back if they'll give them a chance. All right? If you have that kid on your team and you went potluck, he probably doesn't know it yet and he hasn't been developed yet. You're going to have to do that. You're going to have to identify him. Then you got to figure out how to make little stars and support staff out of everybody else. And you're going to get them in and you're going to run drills. Drills, 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 drills. Everybody wants to waste time at the end product. They want to say, all right, let's line up as a team. This is how we're going to run it. No, man, that doesn't do anything with discipline. That doesn't do anything with structure. Don't start with your offense. Don't start with your defense. Don't start with the scrimmage. That's the party that comes after. Drills. Partially from a physical standpoint, get them again from your knowledge base to learn techniques, to learn the basics, to make them habit, to make where the mind muscle is all blend together and go straight. You're using it to create a structure. You're using it to create a system. You're using it to create a routine and some discipline. When they get back, it should be calisthenics. Figure out the ones you want to do. You want to do jumping jacks, do them. You want to do push-ups, do them. Sit-ups, do them. You got to do push-ups, sit-ups, by the way. When a kid acts up, have a discipline that goes back to those drills. When you get one that's acting out of line, that's talking back, that's giving you some attitude, and yes, I'm jumping forward quite a bit, have them do 50 push-ups. Have them do 50 sit-ups. Have them run some laps. Laps is more dangerous when you can't watch it as close, but when you're really busy focused on others, it can be the only one you can use. You have to use that, and you need to have these ingrained so it's easy. You can't have a straight-up open rebellion. You got to flow with it. Use these drills and do strong. Be like an old sergeant from a World War II film, okay? Get out there and do the old monkey roll. Do the crab crawl. Do whatever works for you. Horse runs. They're soccer drills. I don't even know. Have them do them. They got to be fast. They got to be split up into groups. Worst thing that happens with drills is when a coach decides they're the only person that can do it. Get a parent that doesn't know anything to run a station. You got to break them up, 4 or 5 kids per set, because they need to be in line before their next turn long enough to get a breather and to get some recovery. Not in line long enough to get bored. Kid in line gets bored, starts acting up, bullies start bullying other kids, gets ugly. You need small lines. If they're groups of 3, that's great. Maximum of 6, preferably 4 or 5 is the group size you want to have them in. Have them run the drills in the station for a certain preset amount of time. Blow your whistle, move them to the next one. Blow your whistle, move them to the next one. How many kids you have? If you have 50 kids, you better have 10 different drills and 10 different stations. If you got 10, 3. Okay? This helps to set the discipline. Now here's the attitude you have to have with them when you're going through these. Critical on mistakes, praise the smallest improvement. If Jimmy's doing it wrong, and I mean I had a kid, his nickname was Mano. Love Mano. I don't know where he is today. I hope I get to find out someday soon. I'd coached his cousin, and his cousin had been this sad sack little kid that had this great year and grew and compensated super. So his mom and dad brought him and wanted the same. Mano was the smallest, sweetest little Hispanic kid you'd ever want to meet. If every other kid was this tall, he was 20% smaller, and he outweighed him by double. He was the chubbiest, sweetest little thing you'd ever ask for. I mean, this is as far as flexibility went. Just a cute little tortilla-eating butterball. Oh, he was so precious. What a loving kid. What a great kid that wanted to have fun. Couldn't do a sit-up. Obviously. You know what I did with Mano day one? I stood over in front of everybody and said, come on, give me your best. Do a sit-up. That's terrible. You're at least going to put effort in. Come on, Mano. You're going to stay here until you can give me a proper effort. And I called him out. And I was hard. And you know what? You'd think he'd break down and cry. He got angry. He was the happiest he'd been. You know why? He was such a sweet, cute kid that nobody had really high expectations. Nobody ever expected much. He'd never been pushed. It'd never been required of him. Now that little part of his brain, that little question in his brain that, am I good enough? Am I strong enough? Can I do it? I guess not. And nobody's ever really believed I could either. They get that. At 6 months old, a kid gets that. Holy cow, somebody thinks I can. He won't quit on me. He believes in me. Maybe I am good enough. Maybe I am strong enough. By the end of the year, Mano could do a sit-up. It was a crunch, but he could do it. And it was awesome. I know he's never a good player, but he had the best year of his life. And he loved it. And I rode him hard. But here's the deal. Day one, I'm hollering at him to do it. When he finally gives me 1/1000th of an inch of improvement, when it finally was at least, and the sweater drop broke out, I praised him louder than I hollered at him on the other. Way to go, Mano. That's what I'm talking about. Way to give me effort, baby. Now get up. Come on, let's go. Wow. Praise. And it's real because I wasn't being lied to before. I was really being corrected. I was really being told I had to do better. That's never been required of me, so that hurt. But somewhere way back here, and by the way, you have to fight through a lot of the other first. I got mad, I got sad, I got all this. But wow, maybe somebody believed. But he really must mean it when he praises me because this part was real. You got to be strong and you got to correct them. Push them to be better. Let's be honest, guys. One of the goals in life is to improve every day. If you got the best athletes out there and you don't ever make them any better, shame on you. And you're not going to make them better just because of the better athletes and just because you read the book and had the technical. You got to do that up here. You got to hammer them. You got to push them. You got to correct them on what they're doing wrong. And then you got to praise them loud on what they're doing right. You got to praise them loud on what's good. Build back up. The old tear down, build up. It matters. Then you need to build segments. Okay? Compartmentalize. Compartmentalize your team. The one I knew best, so I'm going to use it as an example the most, is football. But guys need to have a group within the group they hold with. You have two sides. You have offense and you have defense. That's the first place you're probably going to start. But you also have another set of sides. You have backfield and you have line. Granted, on this D side, you can have linebackers, which can be a hybrid. That's a total different group, depending on the size of your thing. Is pinch you're going to break it down. You may have a subgroup of linebackers. You may have a subgroup of defensive backs. You may have a subgroup of defensive line. You may even go so far as to have safeties and cornerbacks. On the offense, you may have quarterbacks. You may have linemen. You may have receivers. You may have running backs. Whatever it is, usually what you're going to end up with is you're going to have linemen and you're going to have backs. You want to know what denotes those? Bigger, slower, faster. I'll tell you another thing that always happens in the league. The worst athlete always gets dumped here as well, which is kind of bizarre, but I'll go over that another time. You want to use baseball, outfield, infield. Let me tell you what happens with the average Little League team. The best athletes get put here. All the praise gets put here. You know what they end up doing? Ignoring or neglecting this side. It gets the worst and it gets the blame. How in heaven's name can you play a team sport and win as a team with that? So what you got to do is you have to have somebody that's in charge of this group, whose job is to build them as a coherent force. Yeah, I want them to cheer for their successes, but you know what? You better have somebody on that sideline that when the infield makes a play and is getting praised for the big out in the championship, that yells, "Way to go, outfield, way to back them up. They could have never done that without you." And makes them go, you know what they couldn't have? Because you know what they couldn't have? You get the running back that runs for it all, and everybody's like, "Yay, Jimmy, you're the greatest runner. Oh, thank goodness for our amazing running backs." You better have some coach out yelling everyone, going, "Way to go, line. Could have never done it without that hole. Could have never made it without you. You're the greatest. You're the best." Game-saving tackle. Way to go, D-line. If you hadn't held him up, you wouldn't have been there. Way to go, D-line. If you haven't fallen down and the guy tripped over you, he might have made... I don't care what it is. Make it positive. Build them as a group. Build these guys as a group. Have them competing for a spot, but make them a group that fights together against others. Make them feel cohesion. Make them feel team. You have to have teams within a team before you build the greater. If you have a team where one group is the GOAT and the other's the hero, you do not have a team. You have a partial good segment. You want to have a great team, you want to win together, you better have two teams interior believing in self. If you have the worst backfield in the world, let me tell you something. They're a heck of a lot better holding together as a group, supporting one another as a group, believing in themselves than they are otherwise. You got the best backs in the world and the worst line, you better not blame them. You better not cuss them. You better not break down their personal view because they're a whole lot worse that way. You better correct what they're doing wrong. You better hold them accountable. You better structure them with discipline. And then you had better praise them. And you had better build them as a team. And you better make them something special. That's how you get there. That's how you do it. And you continue to structure. And you continue to flow. You gotta have some psychology. I'm going too long. I have 1,000 things more to cover. And I think this has been too long already. So I'm going to try to wrap this up. Love, discipline, and the third, security. Great quote that I love, not related to Little League sports or anything else. It says, "Any man that would give up his freedoms for security deserves neither." Love that quote. I believe it all the way in here. Here's the truth. People will give up every freedom in the world for security. You're taking a little person, many times who has not been loved before, who is learning true structure and discipline for the first time ever. They got to feel safe. They got to feel secure. You want to build them into a team and unit, make them know you have their back. They can never feel you betrayed them. They can never feel you turned on them. They have to always believe, no matter how bad I do, the coach might yell at me. He might hold me accountable. He might tell me how to correct it. But he will never humiliate me. He will never break me. He will never blame me. He will always stand up. If you are the back coach and your backs fail, at the end of that game, when they're broken, when they're hurting, you do not chew them out there. Next week, when you're going over structures, you can say, okay, here's what you did wrong. And now it's past. You can do it purely in a mechanical way. But right there, you know what you say? If anybody takes blame, you got to blame myself. I'm so sorry, guys. I did not have a proper game plan. I did not have you prepared. I'm so proud of the effort you gave me. You give them security. Because let me tell you something, and I'm going to wrap this up now. You take the best athletes, and I mean I'm talking talented, and they don't feel loved, and they don't have discipline, and they don't feel secure. They may be on a scale of 1 to 10, a 10. You give me a team of 3s that are strong and feeling loved, have learned structure and discipline, and feel secure, they're going to beat that team. And here's what's more, when all is said and done, and 10 years have passed, 20 years have passed, 40 years have passed, they really beat that team. Because talk about it, guys, you know what I'm saying. We all knew this kid that tragically didn't grow up any better. But have you ever seen what one season of love, structure, self-discipline, security can do long-term in somebody's life? That's how you build a winner. Now let me tie this in just a minute into sales. Same thing is true. If you're an owner and a general manager, you got to apply the same thing to your people. But when you are selling to client, the same thing goes. I'm not even going to take this for a short-term sale. I can tie it in, but I'm going long-term. You better love your client. You better love them more than yourself. It's what keeps it from being a con. You can't constantly give in. You have to have a system, you have to have a structure, and you have to have discipline. At times you're going to have to be hard. Always greet it with praise as well, though. Your client's going to need to be corrected. The reason they have hired you for your service, for your system, for your skill set is they needed it. If a guy hires a plumber to come fix their plumbing, they needed the plumber. If they get involved, the plumber has to say, hey, this is what you've done wrong. This is what you got to do right. And this is, but hey, well done on this, and we're going to keep going on everything else. It all flows with. And you need to have them secure that you always have their back. They have to believe that if this deal goes bad, you're going to take care of me. Why do people buy a name brand? Why do folks go to Sears to buy their washer and dryer and pay more than the next place? Because they believe at some level they got their back. Why do you pay twice as much for the exact same bicycle at a bicycle shop than you pay for a bicycle at a department store? Because if you have a problem with it, you got somebody to take it to. Why do you buy an extended warranty? They're a friggin' ripoff because it makes you feel secure. Make your client feel secure, and you've won a client for life. Love them. Hold them accountable as well with praise and stress, system structure. Let them know that you have their back and that you have their best interests at heart. They will sign with you. If somebody believes these of you, they will sign every time. What's more important, they will stay loyal to you and they will send people to you. And you will have made them better people and improved their life and vice versa. Building a winning team is always the same. So much more to this. I can sit here and think of a billion things I should have gone over. I may do a second level of it. I think I learned enough going through this. Maybe I can write it out and even do a little better, but we'll take a different focus. Regardless, if you made it to the end of this, you're a better man than most. Thank you very much for watching. But I had a good time teaching it, so I hope somebody did. God bless, guys. Have a great day.